If not you, then who? I recently began putting down ideas I had into a very compressed manner, into a model of these ideas, which, because it's so short, cuts out many different things that would go into this model, many different variables. Nonetheless, I need to do this in order to communicate this to myself again, and therefore I put this down. If not you, then who? Now, what I associate with this is that there is only in my life one entity that I can actually, that for one can act, and for two I can to a certain degree maybe influence, maybe not, if free will is just an illusion. Nonetheless, if I am not doing the thing, then nobody is doing the thing that I could do, because there is nobody else that could do the thing for the purpose of kind of this discussion. So what this means is also that I cannot really rely on somebody else, because to a certain degree also, maybe implied with something else I mentioned in another video already, is that everybody else has an incentive, or not an incentive, but wants something. Let's just say it like this. And I also want something. So there is only one other entity which kind of wants something very similar to myself, which would be the other part of me, which would be described as, or Daniel Kahneman, and Amos Tversky are mentioned as, or described as System 1, with System 2 being the rational part of the mind, and System 1 being the subconscious, the fast thinking portion of the mind, which also controls the autonomous functions such as the heartbeat, such as breathing, even though breathing has this overlap with the System 2, or with basically conscious control to a certain degree now. The main problem of other people potentially, or other entities potentially doing something for me, or something maybe also for somebody else, is that they also have an incentive. And this incentive might be different from what I am trying to do. So they want something, but there is only a certain degree of overlap. So if I want to learn on YouTube, for example, then the problem might be that I can watch these lectures, but then YouTube has an incentive to put a video, which is not a lecture, next to it. Which then means for me that I set out to do this thing, like learn on YouTube, watch lectures on YouTube, for example, but now because of how YouTube works, or let's just say the incentive system YouTube is running on, it benefits from now putting things that are seemingly more interesting compared to a lecture to it, which then overall means for me that I don't watch the lectures, but I watch the things that are on YouTube, which then in this instance maybe seem more interesting. And so YouTube in this sense is basically exploiting my psychology, or the setup of my psychology, one could say to a certain degree, because of its underlying incentive structure. That to a certain degree could mean that one cannot really trust another entity compared to oneself, and maybe also oneself is consisting out of at least two entities, System 1 and System 2. And so back now to me, the only thing that I can do is act, and I cannot really rely on the acting of other people, because I can only try to influence other people or other entities, and then I have to wait, or I can I'll try. The only thing I can do is do things, which is to a certain degree a truism, and also maybe oversimplified and also super obvious, but I can only go forward if I do things, and so the only person or the only entity that can do things is me. So if not me, then who?